Hi, thanks for coming and watching the Cottage Industry Fibers podcast, episode 7. My name is Kim, and you can find me as Continental Kim on Ravelry, Instagram, and Plurk. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. Thank you for coming and checking it out. I can't wait to hear what you think. And if this is a return trip for you, thank you so much for coming back and deciding to listen to me ramble on again. But let's get right into the knitting. I only have 2 knitting projects to share with you today. The first one is the Lock Street cardigan, and that one, let me get it here so you can see. It is by Glenna C. And I think this is a pretty good picture of how you can see it's got a nice cable detail down the sleeve, and then it also has a nice cable detail down the front next to the button band and a really pretty shawl collar. So I'm looking forward to finishing that one up. I am doing it in Woolmize DK in the So Long Kitty colorway. So far I've finished both fronts. So this is the first one. And you can kind of see how that cable pattern is coming out. It's going to look much better blocked. And then here is the other front. So if all is as it should be, these two will match. Well, will be mirror matching. And then I did cast on the back already. And so right now I've only got about, not even 4 or 6 rows into the cable repeat, but the ribbing's all done, and these are on my signature circular size 7, and these are not the interchangeable ones. No, these are just the fixed circulars. They don't do fixed circulars anymore. They only do the I think they call them convertibles, not interchangeables, because you can change the size of the cable, but you have to have a different cable for each size needle tip that you have with theirs. So, I still love their needles, but I wish they had been fully interchangeable. But I kind of understand why they made that decision. I think it was to make sure there was a really nice join there still. So, anyways, totally off topic. But yeah, so I've got the cabling on the back of this sweater really only extends from like here to here. And then the rest is just stockinette. So it's actually moving pretty quickly. I'm really happy with that pattern. And hopefully, if all goes well, I will finish it for Rhinebeck, along with a multitude of other projects that I would like to get done for Rhinebeck. But as we've seen by my bag of unblocked projects, that's not as likely to happen as I wish. But it is what it is. Okay, the second project that I have is the Stitch Surfer, and that is a free pattern from Knitty. It's a lot of fun because you get to take 2 different colorways of yarn, and you're essentially doing intarsia in the round, and so you're knitting back and forth, but it creates a round knit object. And because of the way that you're doing the increases and decreases as you go, it makes the colors surf across the sock. Mine, I guess, I watched the Mustache podcast, and they would call, oops, that is the wrong project bag. Although it's super cute. It's Doctor Who themed from Slip Stitch Studios. Look at, I love the little weeping angels. I don't know why, I just do. Okay, so back to the Mustache podcast. When they have one whole sock done from a set, instead of calling it a finished object, because it's only half of the object, really, they call it a half object, or commonly referred to as a hoe. So here's my hoe. I finished the sock. I've cast on the other one, but whether you can really count that as cast on yet or not, I don't know. It's, you know, like 4 rows of a toe. That is on my Addy sock Rockets, a size 1. No, a size 2, because I started these on a 1 and realized that that was way too tight and had to restart them. So yeah, that's Addy sock Rocket size 2. I don't usually like to do magic loop. I prefer GPNs, but for this particular project, I really, for me, it's working much better magic loop, and so that's why I'm using the Addy sock Rocket for that. But yeah, I'm really happy with this color combination and with how the surfing is going. I did the Judy's Magic Cast On, and then you go toe up. And this is the first time I've done the Fish Lips Kiss Heel. I am super happy with it. It actually gave me the option when doing it. I don't like to do afterthought heels for my foot because I tend to need like a deeper gusset, and so they just never quite seem to fit right for me when I do an afterthought heel. And then I kind of found a way that I could do Kat Bordy's Sweet Tomato heel as an afterthought style, where I don't have to do all the way around stripes to make it work, and those fit pretty well. But then this Fish Lips Kiss heel is designed to be like an afterthought heel, or, you know, while you're knitting, but it gives you the option in the pattern to do a way to do a larger gusset, and I'm really liking the way that it fits, the way that it knits up, everything about it. I think next time, because I tend to wear the heel of my socks, I'll probably do kind of like a knit slip pattern on the back part of this heel. But other than that, I love this heel just the way that it is. It's really a great option. And the person who designed it, I'll put it, you know, down here, but I can't remember her name. It is a pay-for pattern. It does include a whole sock recipe, so it's not just the heel, and it's like $1. So in my book, well worth it, because you're going to use that over and over again. And then I did, for the bind off, I did a Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy bind off, I guess that's what it's called. And so I love that one because, you know, I'm not a little girl in the sense of size, and so I need when it gets up to the top of my sock, I need to have a little stretch to get around my leg, you know. So anyways, that's what I've done on this sock. Just gonna duplicate that on the next one, except you swap, you know, the next one right here will be blue, and this will be the multi-color, and the heel will be the multi. I forgot to mention this, the yarn is it's the Loopy U's line of yarns, and the variegated one is Carol's Lake Sunset. Is that right? Yeah, Carol's Lake Sunset, and these come as a full skein. It's like, you know, you could do a whole sock with this because it's like 100 grams or something around there. And I'll put the information down below or in the show notes. And then this one here is the from the Loopy U Solid series, and those are half skeins, so it's like 50 grams or whatever it is. And the beauty of that is that with this sock pattern, you really only need half a skein, because you know, you're only doing half the socks with one color and half with the other. But that was going to leave me with a whole half skein left of this variegated. And since I was having a hard time deciding which semi-solid to go with it, what I did is I got, and I didn't look up this color, I got a purple one. So I can actually make 2 full pairs of socks. I think that purple will look pretty good with it too. What do you think? I think I like it. But Anyway, so that's that. Happy with that progress. Fun pattern to knit. It's still pretty straightforward because it's mostly stockinette, but instead of just going in the round and round and round and round, you go back and forth. So it keeps your mind occupied enough that it doesn't get like super boring just knitting in the circle. All right, that's all for knitting. I have two spinning projects I'm working on right now. The first one is just the continuation of my Into the World in the 40% superwash merino, 40% merino, 20% silk that I've been spinning up in order to make a less is more cardigan. And let me see if I can look that up. I have talked about it a few times, but I don't think I've ever put any pictures of what it looks like, and it's really a cool pattern. It's made so you can take your hand spun and use a bunch of different colors, like working through the pattern, and that way you don't have to have a sweater quantity of all the same color. You can just use up yarn you already have. Let me see here. Sorry for the delay. And it's really cool too because you can do short sleeve, you can do long sleeve. It's just like a simple raglan. Let me look up. Here's the one for the pattern. Oh, and it was written by Amy King, and it's really specifically for working with a bunch of different yarns. Let me see if I can make this big. Okay, so here's one of them. And see how it goes through all the different colors? But in the end, it looks like really cool like that, I think. And here are the braids of handspun that she used for that project. See that? So they don't necessarily look like they should go together, but when you knit them together, they do. So it's such a great use of all that handspun you've got. Look at this one. I love this one. Okay. So this one, she really kind of planned how those colors were going to work together. And she just made it the little, you know, when the raglan shaping was done, coming at the end, just bound off that sleeve right there, and it made a super cute cap sleeve pullover. So I'm really excited about this project. What I did with mine is I was going to need more yardage for a bigger sweater, and rather than trying to find 8 colors or so that would go together, I picked 4 colors, and instead of doing 4 ounces of each, I'm spinning 8 ounces of each. But the benefit of having that extra fiber is that I actually am going to be blending the colors through the skeins as well. So the last colorway is Cheshire. So the one I plan to be the bottom of the sweater is Cheshire. And that one I actually threw in an extra braid. So there's 3 braids of that one because I didn't want to run out of yarn at the end and be really upset. So I've spun all the Cheshire that's going to be just by itself, you know, all the same colorway in the 3-ply. And now I've spun up these 2 bobbins. Let me see. And those are going into the first blended skein. So 2 of the plies will be this Cheshire colorway, and then the 3rd ply will be from this colorway. There's not much of this colorway that I haven't already split apart for the project, but I'll pull it out here so you can see. So this one's called Mercy Hardigan, and for those who know, that is a Doctor Who reference. And it is kind of a red, got a cherry red with some silver and dark gray, and then it's got white in it every now and then that's really kind of softening that color. And I think that that softened area really goes well with this color of the, you know, of the Cheshire. So I'm interested to see how those come together blended, and I should have those next time for you. That is it for this project. The other spinning project that I have going on right now is a support spindling project. I just started support spindling a few months ago, and I'm still getting the hang of it, so maybe sometime soon I'll do a little video of how I do it, but it is not an expert demonstration by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just putting it out there now. But what I'm spinning are these beautiful, beautiful hand-carded poonies from Gourmet Stash. And these little poonies, it takes like 30 to 40 of these to make 1 ounce of fiber. 30 to 40, something like that. It's crazy how much work goes into preparing just 1 ounce of fiber. But these little poonies, they're like small Rolags. But they're great, especially for short luxury fibers, because when they're carded like this into the little roll, and then you pull off the end to start spinning, there's already a little bit of twist in there from the roll. So it helps it all hold together. And then, oh wait, let me show you real quick. It's Gourmet Stash. And this colorway is the Sakura Luxe Redux. And what that has in it is superfine merino, sea cell, cashmere, silk, milk fiber, and pink Angelina. So it's this yummy, soft, squishy mix of lovely fibery goodness. And I am spinning those with a Spanish Peacock Russian support spindle. And the Russian is just the style. It's kind of this, you know, teardrop shape here, I guess. And it's a really, really beautiful spindle. Spanish Peacock makes, quite a few different, you know, styles of spindle, and their work is just lovely. It's just a pleasure to work with all around. And then this is their lap bowl. And essentially what a lap bowl is, it makes it, with support spindling, the whole concept is that you put the spindle into a bowl, and the bowl holds all the weight of this spindle. So there's no weight put on the single as you're spinning. And what that allows you to do is you can do really, really fine singles, because you don't have the risk of the weight of the spindle and of the fiber that's being gathered onto the spindle. You don't take the risk of the weight of that. I don't know if that's focusing. The weight of that causing your single to break. So essentially, you just, you know, put this here, and, you know, you get the twist by spinning, you know, kind of flicking the tip there, and then, you know, you draft out. And no, you don't take it off the support spindle to draft it out. I'm just showing you kind of the concept of how this works. And because there's not a lot of weight on this single, you can get really fine. And that's not even, I mean, that's not even the finest that it's gone. You know, you can go like, some people call it frog hair. The other cool thing about support spindles versus drop spindles is with a drop spindle, you pretty much, you spin and your drop spindle's going down. And then once your drop spindle gets down to the point where it's about to hit the floor, however far you want to let it go down, then you take hold of the spindle and you wrap your single back onto the spindle and rehook the single into the hook and start again. Well, the cool thing with the support spindle is, see this little area right there where there's a little bit of yarn or singles stacked up? What you can do is you can spin, and then you spin, you hold your singles like right here, but you leave enough room for you to still grab a hold of this tip, and then you can spin some more singles and load it up onto that point, and spin some more singles and load it up on that point. And once you finally have too much loaded up here that you're having a hard time spinning the tip, then you just kind of, woo, losing control here, do like a butterfly technique like this, wrap it all up onto your fingers, and then bring it down here and wrap it onto the bottom of your spindle, and then start again. So you can spin a lot longer before having to put it onto your final wrapped, I don't know, whatever this area is called, before you have to put it down there. So it's just kind of a more effective way of spin, not effective, because drop spindling is very effective as well. What's the term I'm looking for? Oh well, anyways, and it's just, you can go, a lot of people can go a little bit faster, but I know there's drop spindlers who are crazy fast, so. But anyway, so the benefit of this lap bowl is that instead of having to place just a small bowl like this down on a table or something like, oh, I'll show you next time when I show you more about, or whenever I show you more about support spindling. Instead of having to have like a little table in front of you with your bowl sitting on the table and spinning into that, what you can do is you can sit back in a chair and you can either put this, between your legs or next to your leg, under the hand you're spinning with, and spin right there. The last time I was spinning with this out in public, I took it out to our local art market and I sat in a folding camping chair with my lap bowls right there and just spun away. It was no problem. So anyways, that's Spanish Peacock support spindle and lap bowl. I think that's it for spinning works in progress. The last work in progress I have to show you is a new thing you haven't seen before. Well, you've probably seen it before, but not from me. Weaving. I finally got that hand spun warped onto my little shacked cricket loom. It's a 15-inch loom, and here it is. So this is the swirled, which was, hold on, the warp, so the threads that are going, from the front beam to the back beam are the swirled semi-solid, and it was Bee Mice Elf 100% BFL, and that was 320 yards, 3.2 ounces of a 2-ply. And then the one I'm using to actually weave with, so the weft that goes back and forth, side to side, is the same fiber, but in a different corresponding colorway called Root Beer Banana, and that was 240 yards and 3 ounces. So that one was a little bit thicker, but it's working really well, I think, in this weaving project. The thing I love about weaving with hand spun is the slow transition of color. It's hard to tell, I think, in the camera, but this is kind of a little bit more orange down here, and it's more yellow here and a little more brown here. I'm actually weaving this in kind of a loose weave, and the reason for that is that I'm planning on felting this when I'm done slightly. And so hopefully what will happen is it will felt, but it won't turn into it will still have some nice drape to it. It will still be, not like a hard, sometimes you have like a felted hat, which is meant to be rigid. Well, if you felt something too much, it can go from having a nice soft drape, even though it's felted, into that hard kind of rigid fabric that you wind up with. And you can use it for something else. I just don't know that it would make a great scarf that way. So I plan on lightly felting this, and that will close up some of that loose weave pattern a bit, but hopefully still make for a nice drape. One thing I wanted to show you, if you are going to be weaving on something like this, a lot of times you're going to use a stick shuttle. And so this one has what's left of kind of the first half of the skein on it, because I'm only about halfway through weaving this. And let me put that down for a second. Oh, here it is. This is the other half of that fiber. So here you can get a better idea of kind of the changing colors, and the same changes you see going through this stick shuttle are the changes that are going to appear throughout the scarf when it's done. But one thing I wanted to show you, if you're going to do this kind of weaving, a little rigid huddle loom, and you're going to use a stick shuttle like this, it's really recommended that you load the shuttle like this one is, where it's like a figure 8 on the side of the shuttle. So I would go like from back to front, and then back to front and back to front. And what that does is that takes this bulk from the yarn that's being loaded onto the shuttle, and it puts it on the side of the shuttle. Whereas if you took all of this fiber and just went around and around and around through the middle slack here, what would happen is all of this bulk would stack up in the center of the shuttle, and it would make it really thick. And then when you've got that opening, you know, between the top fibers of the warp and the bottom fibers of the warp, where you're supposed to stick that shuttle through, it's called your shed, you know, the area that's open, and you put this shuttle through there, and that's how you pass the fiber between the warp. When you put that through there, if this is super thick this way, you're going to have a hard time. You're going to grab, you know, yarns of the warp, and it's just going to make it a little bit more challenging. So this way, you can get a lot of fiber on a stick shuttle when you have put it onto, you know, where it's loaded up onto the sides. So that's just a tip for that. It makes it a little bit easier to work with. The other thing I was going to say that I forgot to point out when I had the loom up here, but just know that when you're warping wool onto a small loom like that, you don't have to pull it as tight as you would if you were putting cotton on there. When you're putting that warp on and you're pulling really tight with the cotton, that's to keep everything even tension and nice and controlled, so because cotton doesn't have a lot of stretch, whereas wool has a lot of stretch to it. So you can afford to not pull super tight while you're putting the warp on, because all that's going to do is keep it super tight on your back beam while you're weaving, and wool doesn't necessarily enjoy that. I don't know many people that do, being, you know, stretched to your maximum limit, but wool is probably better off being a little bit more relaxed, and you can still even out your warp as you're loading it on, but just know that because of how stretchy wool is, when you're actually weaving and you're tightening up the back and the front beams, you can get plenty of tight, you know, that taut area that you need in order to be able to lift the shed. You can get that nice tightness just by putting the stretch in when you're tightening the front and back beam as you're weaving. So anyways, I don't know if that made any sense whatsoever. I hope so. But if not, hey, ask questions. Go on the board. We've got a group on Ravelry called Cottage Industry Fibers Podcast. And go in there and just post a question on the episode thread. I'd be happy to answer to the best of my knowledge, or if I don't have the answer, try to point you to someone that I think might. All right, that is it for Works in Progress. I don't really have any finished knitted objects, but I do have finished spinning. Look at, you know, we were talking about show notes, and Kristen was saying how they're all like written out for me. They are, although half the time I go off topic anyways, so why I do this, who knows. But anyways, that's the next thing, is my finished spinning object. I have that Southern Cross fiber I was working on before. This is Southern Cross fiber Polworth in Siren Song is the name of the colorway, and it's got these really pretty purples and teals and blues and green, and then the brown is kind of a seaweed brown, so it's definitely very much like a mermaid color, kind of ocean colorway. I think they did a really good job of capturing that. This was 2 braids that I spun into singles and then 2-plied on my matchless using a bulky woolly winder. And the Woolly Winder is just a piece of equipment that's sold by another company called Woolly Winder, I believe. Anyways, and what it does is it loads those singles evenly onto the bobbin for you, so you don't have to stop regularly and move your single across the hooks to get it loaded. And typically you can get a little bit more onto the bobbin by using a Woolly Winder. But for whatever reason, I was really fighting with it this time. And because of that, I didn't get quite as much twist in my singles, in my ply as I wanted. So, I don't know. I'm trying to decide. It's certainly knittable. It's certainly very, it's got some good stretch to it. It will be pleasant to knit. But it's one of those things where it's not exactly what I had envisioned, so am I going to go back and add more twist, or am I just going to leave it how it is? I kind of think I just need to get over it and leave it how it is, because it's, it's a lovely skein, just like this. It just doesn't have quite the twist that I had envisioned when I was putting it together. So like I said, I was having a little problems with my Woolly Winder. I don't think it was an issue so much about the Woolly Winder as much as it was the Woolly Winder in combination with the fast whirl that I was using, in combination with the tensioning that I was using. It just wasn't working to its optimum like it should. And I've gone back and forth having issues trying to use the Woolly Winder for plying. So what I'm thinking about doing before kind of deciding to just give up on using the Woolly Winder and the bulky, this is the bulky version of the Woolly Winder. With the standard normal size bobbin version, never had a problem with those before. They work great. I love them. I actually had one for my matchless, and then I thought, I don't need that, and I sold it so I could get the one for the bulky. And now I'm wishing I had kept the other one. But before I give up on that bulky Woolly Winder, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to try making a thick single, like a worsted weight single, using that bulky Woolly Winder. Because I think that's really more what it's meant for. It's got the really big orifice on it, so you can do like really thick, chunky art yarns. And I have not been able to get very much success with art yarns. I'm kind of a little too technical for that, I guess. I'm always like, okay, this much twist, this much fiber, this much draft, and so it's kind of hard to let go enough to be able to do that nice, thick, bulky art yarn kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is, one thing that makes it easier to do a thick, bulky yarn is to slow down your wheel. And I know me, I cannot just treadle slower. I'll just speed up over time, and then I completely lose the effect I'm going for. Because the thicker your single, the less twist that you need to hold it together. So in an effort to not get too much twist, you want to slow down the wheel. And you have options on how to do that. Like I said, first option, treadle slower. I mean, that is one easy way to slow it down. But the other option is to change which whirl you're using. And I wanted to take this opportunity to show you some of the different whirls that are available. The one that I use, these aren't all the ones I have, but these are kind of the more common ones. The ones that come with like a matchless or sidekick are, this is the fast whirl, okay, and then this is the medium whirl. So essentially, your drive band goes around your big wheel, and then it goes over the top into one of these ridges. So every single time your wheel turns one time, your whirl will, if that wheel is a 18-inch wheel, okay, and this whirl is only 2 inches in diameter, then, actually, I'm not sure what it is, but then for every one time that wheel goes around that's 18 full inches, this is going to spin around 9 times because it goes around that same, sorry, it goes around that same 18 inches, but because this is only 2 inches in diameter, it makes it go around 9 times. Okay, so this one I use a lot. The other ones I use a lot, because I'm psychotic apparently, are my high-speed whirl, and then this one is called the super high-speed whirl. Okay, so this is the fast whirl, and this is the super high-speed whirl. So you can see that that's going to make it go faster, much faster. It's going to change the ratio, and it's going to speed everything up. Well, what I did is, at first I was thinking I needed a different wheel than the matchless to be able to teach people how to spin, because I really wanted to be able to slow down the wheel for lessons as well. And then I thought, wait a minute, all I have to do is slow down the wheel. So I ordered the extra slow whirl. And what that is, okay, so this is the medium whirl, right? This is the extra slow whirl. So if you can imagine, for every one time my wheel goes around, this will probably go around, I should look up the ratios, maybe I'll put them down here, I don't know. But this will go around like 4 times. Whereas, you know, this one would go around like 18 times. You know, but I'm going to give this a shot. I'm going to try it with that bulky woolly winder and see if that helps to be able to create art yarns. And then maybe kind of the bulky woolly winder will redeem itself and show its true value and where it really belongs and what it wants to do. So otherwise I think I might sell it. We'll see though. I don't know. I would like to get a woolly winder for a straight, you know, just the standard size bobbin. I think that I would probably be happier plying with that and just joining the 2 skeins together into one big skein rather than trying to make all of that fiber go on to one big bulky bobbin, because this is 7.9 ounces. I didn't tell you. 7.9 ounces, 550 yards, and every single bit of it went onto that bulky bobbin, one bobbin. So, it's great if you want to make a bigger skein or if you're taking 2 braids and putting it together, but since I've been fighting with getting it to ply the way I want it to, we'll see. I might just, like I said, you know, commercial industry is okay with having 1 knot in your skein, so I guess if I had plied these onto 2 smaller bobbins and then had 1 knot to join them together in the right place, that wouldn't be such a big deal. Anyways, so that is all for my finished projects. The next thing I wanted to talk about was fleece preparation. I know I talked a little bit about it last time. We had a little separate video. Right here, I'm going to put in a quick additional video to that. I feel like I made it sound like it's more labor intensive than it really is, because once you get going, you can move a lot faster. So I'm going to plug that little kind of extension video in right here. Hey guys, I wanted to talk just for 1 more minute about the sorting of a fleece. I realized when I was talking about it before that it kind of came across like it was a really laborious and slow process. But, you know, once you know what you're looking for within a fleece, it can go pretty quickly. Like, you know, usually all the locks from within a particular area or a chunk are, you know, pretty similar, so they're going to wind up in the same part of the, you know, same pile. So pretty much what I'll do is I'll pull off a big chunk. First thing I do is I just kind of pull at the bottoms here to try to make sure I get any shortcuts. And then I pull this down and I can see this got kind of this weak area here. So I'm just going to go that this whole chunk is going to have that weak area because it's all from the same area of the fleece. And if I'm wrong and there was 1 little lock in here that maybe didn't belong in this pile, it's not that big of a deal. So that all goes into this pile here that, you know, had the thinner bits up there. So then I'll go back to the exact same area. I'll pull off another chunk of locks. I will oh, see, there's a little shortcut. Just see if I can grab some shortcuts. And then, again, it's from the same area, so as expected, it's got kind of that weak area. And I'll start pulling it into locks. And see, I found a little, you know, bit of veg matter there. But off I go. And I am going to put those in this pile too. Okay, we're back. Now, after we do the sorting, then we can wash the fiber. But anyways, so what I started with was the piles of fiber, and this is the one of kind of those nicer singles that I wound up with just over 7 ounces of. And the first thing that I did is I took those nice singles, I mean not singles, those nicer locks, and I put them into a small lingerie bag. And I lined them all up next to each other so that there was maybe only 1 or 2 locks on top of each other, and then they were all lined up evenly so that when they went into the wash, they would not be agitated at all. The small little lingerie bag fit right into my wash bin, and I was able to wash just those without excuse me, any real agitation at all. And then, oh, and real quick, here are the 3 little lingerie bags in a cold soak. Oh, I'll talk more about that in a minute, along with the larger bags that were the other 2 piles of what I would consider like medium grade singles. I mean, I keep calling them singles. Locks. So anyway, so here is what the locks, the medium grade locks look like when I put them into a large bag. It's just a regular laundry bag that cinches at the top and has like the little toggle to tighten it down and make sure nothing can come out in the wash. And like I said a moment ago, I threw all of that, so a couple laundry bags worth. Each laundry bag has like less than a pound in it. And then the small little lingerie bags, I put them into a cold soak for 24 hours. The reason for the cold soak is that it will open up the locks a little bit. It will allow some of the sand and the dirt to come out. And the reason you go 24 hours is because if you put that into cold water and you agitate it, just kind of move it around a little, that dirt will come out of the locks and it will go into the water. But if you pull that fiber out right away, let's say within an hour or so, first of all, it won't be able to really soak into those really kind of grimy bits near the tip. And also, there will still be a lot of dirt and sand floating around in with your fiber, and you'll wind up taking it with you when you pull the fiber out. But if you let it go to a 24-hour cold soak, what happens is a lot of that silt and dirt and sand and actually settles to the bottom of the bin, or the, whatever it is you're soaking in. I use my big garden tub, which my husband just loves. Not so much. But it gets cleaned every single time I do this, so it's okay. But anyways, so all of that settles down to the bottom. It doesn't take any lanolin out of the fleece, but it does make it a cleaner fleece to work with when you actually go to the hot wash. So I really like doing that. If you let it go much longer than 24 hours though, like 36 or 48, that is going to start to smell really bad. It's going to start stinking like the fermented swint method of washing a fleece, which, look it up. I tried doing that once. Oh my gosh. I made the mistake of doing it in my house, and it smelled so bad. It's essentially you're fermenting the lanolin itself in the fleece as it ferments from sitting that long, it kind of turns into its own soap and pulls itself out of the fleece, essentially. But the smell, oh my gosh. If I lived on a farm and I could do it all outside, it would be fine. But, wow, no, I won't do that again. Until I live on a farm someday. Okay, so after the, wait, I think that's the only picture I took. Okay, after the cold soak, I pull the bags, whether it be the little lingerie bags or the bigger bags, and I put them, I'm going to show you this one again, I put them into my sink. That's just my kitchen sink. I have a double sink, but I put it in there, and I put it in for that first wash. I put it in with some power scour with the water as hot as my tap will allow, and I put and a kettle of almost boiling water. I put that all in for the first soak, and I let that go for about 20-30 minutes. And then I fill up the second sink with the water as hot as my water heater will allow. I don't add the kettle of hot water the second time. And I just transfer that from one to the other. Oh, with the power scour again. Sometimes you may need to even go a third time with the power scour, or a fourth, depending on it looks like it's getting clean. But what you'll see is that water is getting really milky. And that milkiness, that's the lanolin coming out. That's what you want to see. And eventually your water will start looking almost clean, you know, and that will tell you that you've got it scoured enough. Then after that, with a hot rinse, I drain this, that soaks for like 20 minutes, and then I fill the sink again with just really hot water, not necessarily the hottest that it can go, and I just do a straight water rinse. And then the last thing I do is another fairly hot rinse. It doesn't have to be, each time it can get a little bit cooler. And I use that with the Fiber Rinse product. And those are, the Power Scour and the Fiber Rinse are from Unicorn, I think. But anyway, so, and I let that Fiber Rinse soak into the fleece for a good like 20 minutes. It's really important that you can take the fiber out, the fleece out of the cold soak and put it straight into a super hot wash. But you need to, the reason that the temperature is only slowly getting a little tiny bit cooler each time as we go through wash, wash, rinse, rinse, is that what causes felting is a rapid change from hot to cold. And then you can take it back to hot and back to cold. But what happens is that when that fiber is cold and then goes really hot, the fibers expand. You know, heat makes things expand. The fibers expand. It helps it to slough off that lanolin. It kind of makes it want to push off whatever's on it. But if you drop that straight into cold water for a rinse, what's going to happen is it's going to go from this expanded hot to the contracted cold really fast. And when a fleece goes to contracted cold really fast like that, it does exactly what I'm doing with my fingers here, and it wants to grip onto itself. So if you go hot and then cold and then hot, you know, or you take it down in temperature too fast, it will felt, and it's going to give you not what you were hoping for in your finished product. So really that's it for the wash. Once it's done in the fiber rinse, I take it out, I let it drain out, you know, naturally drain out from the bag a little bit. I put it in my dryer on the spin cycle. I let it spin out a lot of that water, and then I just lay it out to dry. Some people like to leave the fiber in the soak until it naturally comes down to room temperature. You can totally do that, but I've found, since I slowly reduce the temperature as it goes through the wash cycle, that I don't need to, I haven't had a problem with felting from taking it out and putting it into the spin cycle. So, whew, I feel like I've been talking about that a really long time. I just want to show you real quick though what it looks like. This is some of the fleece that came out of the larger bags. So this is kind of more the mid-grade, I guess. And, you know, it's all kind of just clumped together, however, because it was just thrown into the bag. But because it's not overly agitated in the wash, the locks come right off. What I do when it's really hot water, just so you know, to dunk that fiber down into the water, don't use your hands because it will burn and it will hurt. I have a little, like a short plunger, you know, like for the bathroom, but I only use it for my fleeces. And I use that plunger. I got that from Judith McKenzie's, I think it was Judith McKenzie, her 3 bags full video. That's a great video for sorting, washing fleece. That's where I got most of this from. But she uses a plunger to kind of push that fiber down into the sink so you're not having to stick your hands into super hot water. I can't say enough about doing that because I have definitely burned my hands before. But anyways, so here are these kind of mid-grade locks, and remember when I was sorting them, I was talking about these weak tips and I was leaving them on. Well, now that this is all washed up, I've got these little tips, and all I need to do is hold on to the lock near the bottom, give it a pull. Because the rest of this lock is very sturdy and strong, I can pull those tips right off, and it takes away the junk, it takes away all the weak bits. And here on the back side where it started off cut, it does want to hold together a little bit just because of the way I had it in the wash, but it's easy just to separate that back out. And now I can process this however I choose. I'm probably going to put it in the drum carder actually. Now when you have weak tips, some people like to cut the weak tips off. And a lot of times, like, I wouldn't do it before washing just because of you'll get the same type of thing down here at this side you'll get on this side, but that's just me. The reason I personally don't like the cutting the tips is because, you know, in these locks, those just broke off at the weak point. Oh sorry, it's a little bit that's sticking out, that's one of the locks, but had I cut them, if I cut them too high up here, I'd be leaving some weak tip behind, and that's just going to turn into neps. It's going to give me the lumpy little tiny bits in my fiber. If you're going for that look, then go for it, you know, because some yarn is like that. If I do cut deep enough to make sure I get every little bit of weak tip off, I'm actually losing some good fiber because I have to cut down really below where the weak point is to make sure I'm getting it. So if I just take the time to take these locks, to go sit on the couch, watch a movie, and just pick up the locks and start pulling the tips off, throw them in the rubbish bin, it works great. And you don't waste, or you don't wind up with the neppy parts, and you don't wind up losing good fiber in the process. That's just my 2 cents. Do what works best for you. The other ones that I washed were the nicer locks, and see, these come out of the bag and they are still all kind of joined at the bottom, but they're all kind of flat and tidy in a row together. And these got even less agitation because of how they were arranged. So you can see they come right apart. It doesn't take any effort at all for me to pull those locks off. Again, these are going to have kind of a little weak tip right there, so I'm holding the bottom, pulling that right off. And that is all good fiber ready to go. There we go. That can go. This, I actually combed some of it. I hand combed some of it. I used these are called Valkyrie Fine, Ultra Fine or something combs, and they're for finer fibers. So it's 2 rows of these teeth, and they are meant for the real fine, like Cormo and Merino, and they're going to work great for this Polworth. I put a couple of locks on here, and what you do is you comb out the fibers, and when fiber is combed, it takes out the little short neps, it takes out any veg matter that remains, and if you have some short staple length in there, it takes that out too. So what you're left with when you're done is you pull you pull roving out, or combed top is what it is. you pull that off of the combs and all those staples are the same length. They're all facing the same direction. And this is just the little sample bit I did with like 5 or 6 locks maybe, I guess. Do you know how hard it was not to spin this when I pulled this roving off of those combs? I wanted to spin it so bad because I just wanted to see how it's going to come out. But hopefully you can tell there's really no neps, there's no veg matter, there's no, you know, it's a nice, clean, combed top type roving. Combed top is, like I said, where it's all lined up the same way, it's all, you know, the same staple length throughout. It's a really great fiber to work with, but not so great if you're planning on doing like a long draw from the roving. It won't necessarily hold it to itself as well. It wants to draft apart. I can't wait to give this a try and see how that comes out. I'm super happy with that. Oops, I mixed up my fiber, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. There it is. Okay. Anyways, so the washed higher and, you know, nicer locks, I had 7 ounces before I washed them, and washed it's 5.6 ounces. So I'm going to be really interested to see how much I'm left with after it's all, the tips have been removed and it's been combed. I will hopefully have that done next time so I can show you what it looks like. That's really it for the fleece preparation today. I have a couple stash enhancements I wanted to share. You know, we were just talking about roving, and Sue Royser from the Cormo Sheep and Wool Farm has dispersed her flock, and she's selling the farm. She's actually planning on going on a mission trip. But she still has some of her roving left, and in a lot of people's estimation, she just had the best Cormos around. Beautiful, beautiful Cormos. And she had some colored Cormo roving left. So I ordered some from her, and this truly is roving. And the roving is the stuff that essentially they card the fiber onto a carder. So there might be little neps left in it, kind of maybe some shorter staples in there. And it's not lined up all in a nice straight row. It's just, you know, like it would come off of the carder, and it's made into this roving. So this is really great for a long draw from the roving because it's not all lined up perfectly straight with comb like it is with comb top. It kind of likes to hold on to itself a little bit more. Really looking forward to working with this. I got a pound of it, and I love her stuff. I'm so sad she's closing her farm, but I'm happy for her that she's doing, you know, what she feels like in her heart is where she wants to go. But like I said, I'll be sad to see her go, but look at this beautiful roving. Isn't it? Can you see it? I hope that light's hitting it right, but it, like I said, she's got some left, and her website's cormo.us, so if you want to check out if she has any more, jump on it while you can. The other thing I added to my stash is, well, sorry, I've got stuff all over the place right now. I got this skein of Verdant Griffin Eidos. I bought it because the colors just called to me, all the swirl of colors. And this is actually an exclusive colorway for the yarn company, and it's called Psychedelic Peacock. And it has 4 ounces, 420 yards. It's a really great 2-ply, 100% superwash merino. I really like working with this yarn. But what I'm a huge fan of is how Griffin dyes her colors. I finally figured out what it reminds me of. See, can you see the swirling going on here? Where the colors just, there's not big chunks of any one color for the most part. It's just got a lot of kind of swirl going on. It totally reminds me of those experiments with milk and food coloring and soap. If you haven't seen this, you need to check it out. Go to YouTube, Just do a search for milk, food coloring, soap. And essentially what it is you take like a little bowl or tray of milk, like a plate of milk, and you drop a little bit of food coloring into it. You know, whatever colors you like. You put a little here, you put a little there. You don't mix it up at all. You just put the drops in. And they just sit there and they just look like, you know, it's hard to even see the color because the color is so concentrated in the one spot. But then you take dish soap or whatever soap you have. I think shampoo works too. And you put literally just like one drop of soap into that milk, that tray of milk. And I guess it's the reaction of the enzymes with the fats in the milk. You know, the soap and enzymes with the fats in the milk. It actually causes this natural swirling effect to happen, and the food coloring just starts like moving all over the place in the plate. It is so cool. I don't know why I like it so much. I guess I'm kind of a, you know, science geek, but that's okay. Science geeks are cool. But it's really cool. You should check it out. It's a fun thing to do with your kids, like a little science experiment at home. Anyways, that's what her colors remind me of. I can't get enough of her stuff. And when I saw this awesome exclusive colorway, I had to go ahead and get it. It's not like I don't have enough of her stuff already. This whole shelf of yarn is Verdant Griffin. And half of this shelf of yarn is Verdant Griffin. And then I have a bucket that has a couple sweater quantities in it too. So I really didn't need more Verdant Griffin, but I got it anyways. All right, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about that I just got. It's not really stash, but it is certainly worthwhile. This is Ply Magazine. It's the newest issue. It's all about twist. Let me tell you, if you are interested in learning how to spin, if you already know how to spin and you just want to look at some different techniques or some new ways, this magazine is it. Let me tell you. And the twist episode is a great one to start with. Issue is a great one to start with because they have so many different people who contribute with so many different styles of spinning that there's something for everybody. I like the whole, let's figure out if I put this much twist and I divide out by, you know, this many, you know, wraps per inch and all the kind of technical number crunching stuff. But I wish I could do more art yarn and just kind of let it go. Well, there's articles on doing that and just letting go and going by feel. I think there is a certain amount of feel too in what I do, but I'm not as conscious of that as I am with the technical side of it. And then on the other hand, if you're more go crazy with it, you know, just go by feel kind of spinner, and you want to kind of maybe learn a little bit about the technical side of how to work more for like a specific type of yarn, that's in here too. It is I'm not really showing you much at all, but let me see. It's chock full of content. So here's one all about linen. You know, a lot of, and a lot of times there's usually like here's how to spin something and here's a pattern to go with it. So look at this beautiful shawl with hand spun, or stole, I guess, scarf. But here's a better picture. You know, so, you know, it's got that in here. And this one is all about, you know, testing. You're using this box to test your twist and how much twist it takes to make the finished yarn you want. And so twist angles in here, and measuring yarn, you know, that can be, you know, how do you know if you get the right, if you're getting the right measurement. And then there's also, you know, here's the same fiber spun in a multitude of different ways with different twists. And you know, again, it's just all kinds of great information. So many magazines now, they just seem like they're 60% advertising and 40% content, whereas this one's like 70% content, 30% advertising, and maybe even more content, you know. So I love how diverse this magazine is. I think there's something in here for everybody. And one thing I wanted to do real quick, because JC Boggs, she's the editor, she's the creator of this magazine. That's her right there. So I wanted to, you know, just her sum up of this issue is great. And I just wanted to read it to you guys. When I went to do this the last time I recorded this episode, my husband was like, "Oh, is it time for story time with Kim?" And I was like, no. But no, really. I just wanted to read this to y'all because she sums it up so well. It says, "Dear Ply readers, twist is a subject that makes some spinners sweat and others glow, but without it we just have fiber. It's simple, but also complex. It houses design, balance, drape, hand, and texture. Twist is intuitive. Twist is learned. Twist is math. Twist is yarn. But don't let it overwhelm you. I often talk about how there is a spectrum of spinners, much like the spectrum of yarns. But instead of woolen and worsted at either end, we have technical and intuitive. Like with yarn, there's a whole range in between those two extremes. Most spinners I've met can firmly tell me where they fall on the spectrum, and often follow it up with some statement about how the other end of the spectrum is probably better. I don't believe it. One kind of spinner isn't better, more talented, or more valuable than the other. Just different. Without both, life and spinning would be a lot less interesting. We've tried to capture that scope on these pages. There are articles about precisely measuring all the things a spinner could precisely measure, about math and formulas. And there are articles about using your spinner's intuition, about wool whispering, and getting the gist of twist. Patsy sent us her twist box. Lisa's fiber study on linen is fantastically twisted. Lexi teaches how to intuit twist, and if you've ever wondered exactly what grist is, Jillian breaks it down. Michelle tells us how to measure. Alden counts the humps. Amy talks about twist for socks, and Esther and Alexis tell us how to untwist and find balance. In other words, this issue has range. No matter where you fall on the spectrum, each piece has something to impart. Twist needn't be scary. You're a spinner. Twist is your bread and butter. Sometimes it's just a matter of teaching your brain what your hands already know. And sometimes it's the other way around. So, anyways, I just really like what she had to say about that. I hope that y'all, if you're interested in spinning at all, that you'll look at, you know, this magazine. I think you get a great amount of information from it. I have all this is issue number 5, I think. Yeah, this is issue number 5, and I have them all, and a wonderful resource. I love to look through them because of that. Just even the pictures are wonderful. So that is that for Ply Magazine. We've got a couple upcoming events, and then I am through. The weekend away when I first that I did last weekend, but was actually before or after when I recorded the first time. Part of that trip, it was a mini get together. So fellow mini owners went to Mount Dora, Florida, and we all met together to do like a pub crawl kind of thing. And but whenever I go somewhere new, I try to deviate and check out a new yarn shop. And I could have gone to some of the ones in Orlando, but I wanted to go a little bit off the beaten path. So I went to the Yarn Lady in Summerfield, Florida, and I will talk more about that and her shop in the next episode. And also coming up, we have Tour de Fleece. Tour de Fleece, for those who don't know, is essentially a, I don't want to call it a spinning competition because it's really kind of relaxed. And essentially you join a team and we spin for every day the riders of the Tour de France are spinning their bikes, we are spinning our wheels. So it starts July 5th, and I think it goes till the 20 something. And then there's 2 break days in there along the way, where the riders are taking a break, and we do the same. And it's not like, every moment they're racing that we're spinning, because that would be hours and hours and hours, and we're not going to do that. But it's just an encouraging thing to try to spin at least a little bit every day on the days that they're riding. And then, there's prize threads and there's support threads, and we all share everything that we're spinning, and it's just a whole lot of fun. So beginner or veteran, check that out if you're looking at spinning. And I am going to be joining the Into the World team for sure, because I'm doing the whole Less is More cardigan is from Into the World fibers. So I'm definitely going to be doing the Into the World team, kind of extra motivation to get done with that spin. And I might be joining the Team Sasquatch. And the Team Sasquatch is essentially where a lot of podcasters wouldn't necessarily have enough people on their individual team. So what they did is they came together and they made one big team for podcasters and the people who watch podcasts. So I might join that team as well, but for sure the Into the World team. Just go check it out. Look up Tour de Fleece on Ravelry, and there's all kinds of stuff going on. I think that's it. Oh, Kristen should be back the next episode, and I forgot to grab the bag. Darn it. But the giveaway from the last episode, which was Kristen's handmade last ever on the town knitting bag and the cute little sock blocker keychain, we're going to be giving that away on the next episode. So she's going to be with me. We may even have another guest. We're not sure yet. We'll see. But don't forget, if you haven't done it already, go to the Cottage Industry Fibers podcast group on Ravelry and enter to win that bag, because it is amazing and you can't buy them. So do it now. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me today, and I cannot wait to see you again. Come on over to the group, post on the episode thread, let me know what you thought, let me know if you got any questions. If there's a project you're working on you want to share with the group, by all means, please come and show us what you're working on. I'd like this to be a two-way thing going on, like a knit night with my faraway friends. So thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time. Bye.